Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, of course, the king of all, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Hell, wait till you try those half-pound Wagyu burgers. Best I've ever had. Probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, WOW, Charter, and independent cable affiliates where applicable, as well as Hotel TV, same. By the way, folks, our friends over at Vacation Buddies are giving away a couple of nights in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri. If you could tell us the answer to this question, we're going to make it real simple. Which city in America is the most visited from a tourism standpoint? Which city in America has the most tourism? Real simple. Call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Answer the question. Pick up a couple of nights here in Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri. That's 3 days and 2 nights. A nice getaway. And, of course, that's courtesy of Vacation Buddies. Now, remember, they're not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you those nights. If you know the answer to which city is the number one tourist destination in America, 888-576-5777. Call now. All right. There's been a lot of discussion on the idea of this name, image, and likeness issue. And me personally, I'm a very big opponent of it. I'm not a proponent of it. I don't like the idea of people that are supposed to be amateurs to actually get paid. And, I mean, look at it this way. What is an amateur athlete in the first place? All right, so let's go to the search engine that rhymes with noodle, and we're going to just go and put in amateur athletics defined, and what comes up is amateur athletics involves competing in sports for personal enjoyment, physical and mental benefits, and recreation, not as a primary livelihood or for monetary gain. Remember that part, for monetary gain. Though this definition has evolved with rules for things such as name, image, and likeness in college sports. Key distinctions from professional sports include not receiving pay for performance, signing pro contracts, or capitalizing on fame for income, with athletic scholarships and limited prize money, for example, travel costs, whatnot, often the main benefit. The core characteristics of amateurism? That's right, no competition. Athletes don't get paid for playing, unlike professionals who earn salaries. And of course, there's motivation, so participation is for pleasure, fitness, social development, and personal satisfaction, etc. And of course, sports is a hobby, extracurricular activity, not a job. This is for amateurs. Now, of course, we're going to talk about the evolution in college with this whole NIL thing, which really drives me crazy. And the NCAA now permits student athletes to profit from their name, image, and likeness, a significant shift from traditional amateurism, allowing endorsements and promotion without losing eligibility as long as it's not payment for playing. Well, I got news for you, folks. The idea of payment for playing is actually happening. And this is the conundrum. And then there's the idea, well, they say, well, in college, well, there's limited payouts. Athletes can still lose status if they accept money beyond reasonable expenses or sign professional contracts, though some sports have specific rules for prize money. All right, we'll get back to that. And then, of course, there's the spirit of amateurism. So beyond rules, if embodied honor, fair play, and sportsmanship, emphasizing the development of character and physical well-being. Well, I got bad news for you, folks. As soon as an amateur athlete accepts $1 and they are playing a particular sport, they accept anything. Let's go back to the SMU death penalty thing. We're going to get to that actually in detail in a moment here. But the reality is that amateur status is lost. Now, in case you don't know, just in case you don't know, SMU football and the death penalty was the NCAA's harshest penalty imposed on Southern Methodist University in 1987 for widespread rules violations, primarily paying players from a booster slush fund. We'll get to Cody Campbell in a little bit. For widespread rules violations, primarily paying players, yes, from that booster slush fund, leading to the cancellation of the 1987 season and a ban on all games in 1988, effectively shutting down the program for a couple of years due to continued rule breaking after initial probation. It was the first and only time the NCAA used this extreme sanction, devastating the program for years and highlighting corruption in college sports, though its legacy contrasts sharply with today's NIL, where players receive payments, and it's legal. And of course, down at SMU, they say NIL, according to them, stands for not illegal. Right. No longer illegal at this point. So, if that's the case, the illegal payments that SMU football players received, cash payments, often monthly from boosters and school officials, with one player receiving $25,000 to sign and continuing payments. There was that slush fund where a fund existed to pay players, with reports showing $61,000 in cash gifts to certain players over a couple of seasons. A little bit of deception, though. Despite being placed on probation in 1985, SMU continued making payments, showing a blatant disregard for NCAA rules, which prompted the extreme penalty. And so what penalty entailed? Think about this. Termination of the program itself. The NCAA terminated the program, banning them from outside competition for the entire 87 season. And SMU's president extended the shutdown for another year, meaning no games, scholarships, or recruiting for the 1988 season as well. And how about some big impact here? Look, it remains the most severe penalty ever levied by the NCAA in Division I history. And of course, the penalty crippled the program with significant struggles lasting for decades. But the irony of NIL, though, is the payments that led to the death penalty are now commonplace in legal, in name, image, and likeness rules. How do you like that? Creating a stark contrast between the era of SMU scandal and modern college football. So the reality is, when you look at this amateur athletics idea, you say, well, wait a minute. Amateur athletics is just that. College football players are amateurs. They are not professionals. Yet, somehow they maintain their amateur status while being paid name, image, and likeness money. How in the world does that work? And how does, for example, SMU look at this and say, well, wait a minute. So it's no longer illegal, but it was illegal for them? That's like the whole Reggie Bush situation. So Reggie Bush apparently got his Heisman Trophy back for certain things, and rightfully so. And I guess if I was Reggie, I would be suing the university for a whole bunch of money just because all the damage that was probably done to his name, image, and likeness, and a very marketable player, a national champion, a very good professional player as well. But look at the damage that his name potentially it was inflicted with. And frankly, it's a little embarrassing. But what about that retroactive stuff, right? So guys like Reggie Bush were really given the short end of the stick. You go back to guys like Eric Dickerson and look at Eric Dickerson coming out of SMU. We had Eric on the show, and we talked a little bit about that. And Eric didn't take a penny. But the reality is the program somehow was found to be in violation. Apparently, they forgot to look at other programs that may have been doing similar things. In my opinion, Ohio State, Notre Dame, maybe Alabama, maybe Michigan State, maybe Penn State. Oh, there's a whole mess of them. How about LSU? What about UCLA? I don't know, folks. I wasn't in that. This is my opinion. How come they seem to escape all this extra scrutiny? I don't know. What about the Baylor Bears? What about Baylor University? And it goes on, folks. And we ask ourselves, what about all these other schools? Now, SMU certainly couldn't have been the only one, where we had a guy on our show that said that UCLA was paying their basketball players well before that being John Wooden era, well before all this stuff even happened. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportcircus.com. That's info@thesportcircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP-TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Check them out, folks. All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on all of our radio affiliates, including our friends waking up with us over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM. And, of course, that is 8 a.m. Monday through Friday, right down the road over in Auburn, Alabama, Columbus, Georgia, Montgomery, Alabama. Listening in on WAUD out of Auburn, War Eagle, 1230 on the AM dial. That's home of the Atlanta Braves. Big hello to our friends up and down the Midwest, out to the West Coast, those driving between sunny Southern California and fabulous Las Vegas, listening in on Highway Country Radio 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM. That's home of the Vegas Golden Knights, the Raiders, and the Sports Circus at 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. just like in Auburn, Alabama. Also, welcome into our friends up and down the West Coast, all the way down to our friends in Honolulu, CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. Thanks for driving home with us this afternoon. And everybody also watching on pick your favorite cable provider, Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, and independent cable affiliates in select markets, Hotel TV where applicable. Everybody on Chicago Food Favorites, by the way, thanks for joining us over on Facebook. A fun group, talk about your favorite foods, your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes, make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Check that out, folks. And by the way, our friends over at Vacation Buddies have a very simple trivia question. I read it at the top of the show, and I'm going to go ahead and repeat it for all you that are just tuning in right now for your chance to pick up a couple of nights in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri. Here's the question. What city in these United States of America has the most tourism? Which is visited the most by tourists? Real simple question, real simple answer. If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with the station, but they want to give you a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri. If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777. Call now. All right. Not bad, ladies and gentlemen. Tell you what, I'll take a couple of nights over in Orlando because I'm in Las Vegas. But you know, those staycations are really cool. And I got to tell you, these are nice properties as well. So you definitely want to call that number and pick up your 2 free nights. Anyway, back to this name, image, and likeness stuff. So I talked about SMU and what happened with them. And the reality is an amateur athlete is not paid by definition. That's right, is not paid. And you know, it even goes further. Let's dig a little bit deeper before college and all this other stuff. Let's take a look at high school name, image, and likeness. That's right, high school. That's right. You heard it. There are some rules. But of course, that search engine that rhymes with noodle, they say the NIL rules are a patchwork, varying by state, but generally allow athletes to profit from endorsements, social media, and appearances. Gee, that sounds professional to me, provided it's not, quote, pay for play, close quote. Well, how the hell does that work? How does that work? Just like in college, how the hell does that work? When the boosters are basically putting money into a slush fund, they have their collective, Mr. Cody Campbell and Texas Tech. Yeah, we'll get to you in a moment. But the reality is, when they say pay for play, well, why would they get these deals if they weren't playing in the first place? And they say, well, gee, certain money will go towards the fund, so to say, and the student athlete will get paid from the fund. But to me, that sure sounds like a slush fund designed to do what? Pay amateur athletes. Therefore, now they're all professional. So now what do the rules of professional sports really mean? Let's get back to this high school thing. So yeah, no pay for play. And they say an inducement to enroll. That's not obviously something that is allowed, right? But remember, the rules are a patchwork varying by state, but generally allow athletes to profit from endorsements, social media, and appearances. And it's not pay for play, an inducement to enroll, or uses school logos or uniforms. So, key restrictions include no adult entertainment, alcohol, tobacco, or gambling endorsements. And deals must be disclosed to the state association. Always check your specific state's athletic association for exact rules, as the majority of states allow some form of name, image, and likeness. Now, if you want to read further on that, of course, you can look at, what do we have here? highschoolot.com. We have Business of College Sports. We're giving you some sites here. CNS Maryland, NFHS.org. That's right. So there are scores and scores of documented details of all of this. I'm not just making any of this stuff up. The whole thing is lunacy. Nonetheless, that search engine that rhymes with noodle says the general rules and restrictions are policies differ significantly. Some states ban it, most allow it with restrictions, and some are fully permissive. And they say, well, no pay for play, but compensation cannot be for athletic performance or incentive to attend a school. What about a lack thereof? What about, okay, you're not going to pay us to perform, but maybe you could pay us to sit? Ooh, because what could that do? That could influence a point spread. That's not paying for performance. That would be paying for a lack thereof. So how do you interpret the rules? So you got to realize, folks, you can show me the money, and I won't play, but in the meantime, I'm going to pay, and then I'm going to go ahead and count all my bills out. That's right. Oh, yeah, I'm going to keep that counter going, and I'm going to count all that cash. And they say, well, no affiliation, no school affiliation, so you cannot use school logos, marks, uniforms, or facilities in NIL activities. That's why some of these sports card collecting companies, they have licenses and some don't. They actually have to show certain players in certain sports. They can wear the colors of their school, but they cannot wear the mark. They cannot wear their logo. And I know I collect cards. And so there are people out there that do collect cards, but magically, some have the logos and some don't. Another discussion for another time. Now, they say there are prohibitive categories as well. No promotion of adult entertainment, alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, weapons, or gambling. Well, that's why. Because they're all under 18 years of age. Now, folks, this is high school NIL. We haven't even gotten to college. And, of course, there's an authenticity part of it, too. So a focus on building a personal brand and ensure deals align with personal values. And what are the values? The values have been flushed down the toilet because the values are all about money. It's all money at this point. So really, now you're teaching kids money is more important, seemingly, than education. This is the central takeaway just from this high school part. And of course, that search engine says, well, you have to know your state. These are their takeaways, of course, for athletes. Know your state. The rules are specific to your state's high school athletic association. So therefore, you can mutiny from state A to state B because state B is paying because state A isn't paying. Now, I know somebody that is a high school football player, and they're moving from state A to state B. Why? So they can go get NIL money, because the money, for example, in California, well, good old, Gavin Newsom made it legal. That's right. Made it legal for students to get money. Never mind the fact that it wrecks their amateur standing. That's right. That's the governor of California, which is already a complete disaster. But money is driving kids to go to California to go play sports over there so they can do what? They can be paid. How ridiculous is that? So the key takeaways apparently are, know your state. So which ones pay, which ones don't. And then they say, well, consult your athletic director, talk to your athletic director or coach for guidance. And what are they going to say? Show me the money! That's right. They're going to say, show me the money, and maybe I'll steer you in the right direction. And what about those ADs? Do you think they get consultative money for channeling student athletes? We'll just call them athletes at this point. For channeling those kids over to this school or that school? I'm going to guess they do. I have no proof, but I'm going to guess the athletic directors make a little bit of side money, if you know what I mean. And then, of course, there are the ideas of stay eligible. Ensured NIL activities don't interfere with school or team operations or violate state rules. But those state rules, as I hear and see, are so nebulous as they are. Do they even exist, and who does the interpretation of them? Can you go to the state Supreme Court? Probably, because the deal will be worth more than $75,000. So the water is really muddy. And then they say, well, seek professional advice. Understand contracts and obligations before signing. Well, guess what? A 17-year-old kid cannot sign a contract, nor can a 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, etc. No. So, look, there is a bunch of rhetoric in this, and it is absolutely absurd. We haven't even gotten to the full absurdity of this yet. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come, folks.
I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors Investors who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven, gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number.
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, record shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, iHeart, Stitcher, Deezer, plus a whole bunch of others. Also, make sure you check out the sportscircus.com's partners page. Lots of great partners over there, from food to music to auto manufacturers, you name it, they're there. Lots of great books out there, even Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book, yes, The Real Anthony Fauci, that's in there, as well as a great book by Pat Williams, and boy, the list goes on. Even Rob Ryder from The Warriors, that cult classic movie, The Warriors, check that out, called Purple Fury. Lots of great books over there as well. And let me tell you something, folks. We don't get paid for saying this. These are just our partners. These are our friends, and we like to promote everybody. And so check out the sportscircus.com's partners page, as well as even over there, Al's #1 Italian beef at 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. If you can't make it over there for some great food, check them out at alsbeef.com. All right. I'm going to get back to this name, image, and likeness mayhem and madness. And in my opinion, look, SMU was singled out. We know that. And I mentioned before we went on break, what about all those other schools that seem to have questions, but they never seem to get in trouble? And I wonder about some of those, and I mentioned some of those, like Ohio State and Notre Dame and Alabama, and these are ones that just come off the top of my head. I don't know what they're doing, but it sure seems like they're doing some things, in my opinion, that could be a little questionable, right? All of those, and there's so many more. And I wonder why certain schools are singled out, certain schools may seem to skate by. And you kind of wonder about that. The University of Florida, I kind of wonder about that. I wonder about Penn State. And I have no evidence of anything. I'm just saying these are my questions. What about the University of Arkansas? What about Oklahoma with all those years and all that success? What about Texas? University of Texas at Austin. What about those guys? I don't know. And girls, what about them? So look, this is just my own opinion. But I'm asking the question because for years and years, now we had somebody from, we had a former player that played for John Wooden at UCLA. And we were told that the players were paid back in the 1960s and 1970s from that program when they were winning and winning and winning and winning and winning. They were paying apparently before everybody else, or I guess more openly than anybody else. So I don't know. Again, I wasn't there, but this comes from players that we know. Now, I've actually heard this from two particular players that played for John Wooden. Two people, not one. And so you ask yourself, is it legit? I don't know. Is high school NIL, is that a thing? Yes, it is a thing, in case you don't know. So again, remember, what are the core characteristics of amateurism? Athletes, these are amateur athletes, don't get paid for playing, unlike professionals. All right, and again, you can find that on Pick Your Favorite Search Engine. We use the one that rhymes with noodle. All right, so now we go to professional athletes. Well, same searches, same everything. They say professional athletes refers to an organized sport where participants are paid for their performance, earning a living by competing in leagues, etc., and so forth. Well, guess what? Their key characteristics are what? Athletes receive wages, prize money, endorsements, sound familiar? Or other remuneration for playing. Well, how does that compare with name, image, and likeness? Well, look, there are NIL deals, name, image, and likeness. That doesn't necessarily mean they're paid to play. However, it sure seems like certain athletes are paid a lot more money than others that receive nothing. Frankly, they get zero. Or some of those that get paid next to nothing. My point is, where does that money come from? Who regulates it? Oh, that's right. It originally came from these collectives, which were what? A cluster of boosters that came together to do what? Throw money into the kitty to pay these players exactly what they were doing for decades and decades when certain schools would go on probation for it. That is exactly what they're doing today. So it's no longer illegal, hence SMU's statement. So the bigger question is, if professionals are getting paid to do things, like it says very, very clearly, athletes receive wages, prize money, endorsements, ding, 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 or other remuneration. Okay, endorsements is part of that equation. So you can't just cherry pick and say, well, it's only for doing X, Y. What about X, Y, and Z? Well, endorsements in this particular model is part of Z. Now, if you don't believe me, do your own search. Now, it seems to me that that is a clear-cut violation of amateurism. So what is it with the difference between college and pro, or high school and college, or high school and pro? It seems to me that A, B, and C, or X, Y, and Z, receive wages, prize money, and endorsements. That's a key characteristic of a professional athlete. Well, it seems like they're getting endorsements. And that's not a performance thing, because they say in the college, well, NCAA says, nope, they're not performing, so not getting paid to perform. Well, according to what we just noted here, now, if you need a reference, you could try encyclopedia.com, wikipedia.com, oh, the list goes on. EBSCO, oh yeah, you could try them. And guess what? You could try Law Insider as well, or ScienceDirect.com, or Fiveable, or the University of New Haven, or social media platforms. That's just some of these cited sources on this particular definition. See, to me, it just screams double standard, and it's not fair. It's absolutely 100% not fair. Additional key characteristics of a professional athlete. Primary career. Sport becomes the main source of income. Okay, well, guess what? This is exactly what's going on. How many of these kids that are playing in high school or college are planning on actually a real career? No, it's sports. So the value of education has been flushed down the toilet. And yeah, they play in structured leagues. And here's the thing. There is something called a key characteristic. It is marketable product. Sports organizations functions as businesses selling tickets, broadcasting rights, and merch. Okay, let's go back to the endorsement of merch and name, image, and likeness. So if Chris, amateur athlete, we'll just do whatever, Chris, because that's a male or female name, right? So if Chris athlete, doesn't matter, male or female, is appearing for merchandise, well, guess what? That is a marketable product and a key characteristic defining a professional athlete. That's right. So, if you're looking for some kind of distinction from amateurism, according to that search engine, they say the core difference is payment. Professional athletes are paid to play, while amateur athletes compete for non-monetary rewards or personal fulfillment, though the lines can blur. So let's go right back to the top one. Athletes receive wages, prize money, and endorsements. Endorsements is not pay for play. So if it violates those, therefore it's a violation of the law. My question is, beyond antitrust, because we're going to get to there if we have time today, think about antitrust violations. Competitive nature, you have competitive cornering the market, we have no compete. How in the world can other industries compete? Well, because the NCAA, in my opinion, now is in violation, in my opinion, of the Sherman Act. They've cornered the market, and you can't do that. That is a violation of antitrust laws, in my opinion. Yes, I have a law degree, and I look at this and say, wait a minute. I don't see fair competition. I see monopolistic competition here by the NCAA through their cohorts, through their collectives, and now the schools through the NCAA technically have organized and created a no compete, or you have to go through us situation. That to me, again, sounds like monopolistic competition. Now, if you don't know what that is during the break, you better read about it, because there are many, many cans of worms that are going to be opened up with this. And I can assure you, when you get some of these kids that are not happy with the deals, they are going to go right back and sue, in my opinion, the institutions in which they've attended. In fact, in the next segment, we're going to talk a little bit about Ed O'Bannon in his journey and this whole student-athlete likeness lawsuit situation. So don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. You'll like the next segment. Don't go anywhere. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. That's 800-298-3173.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out the store at the Sports Circus. Lots of great items over there. Hats, hoodies, t-shirts, ball caps, coffee mugs, travel mugs, pillows, blankets, mouse pads, all kinds of cool stuff with this clever Sports Circus logo on them. And again, that is the store at thesportscircus.com. And of course, mention me, your ringmaster Sal, for a 10% off your first order. All right, welcome back to everybody on radio and TV. You know who you are. And in the last few segments, it is essentially this ongoing issue between amateur versus pro. And it all deals with this name, image, and likeness, whatnot. And I already demonstrated in the last segment of what the difference was between an amateur and a pro. And again, if it checks the boxes, then guess what? You're a pro. If you get paid for endorsements and whatnot, according to definition, and I cited a whole bunch of sources on it, you're a pro. However, in some strange twist, the NCAA says, nope, apparently you're not a pro. Well, guess what? Apparently you are a pro. And then you go to the student-athlete likeness lawsuit timeline. Now, this is one of those things you're going to have to kind of follow along here, folks, but this is one of those things where I'm just going to name off some dates and what happened. I'm going to give you a quick summary of what it was, maybe what the action was. There's a lawsuit status and then the NCAA response to the whole thing. So let's go back to the very beginning here, and that is May 5 of 2009. Former Nebraska football student athlete Sam Keller files a lawsuit against NCAA EA Sports. It's in the game. Those guys, Electronic Arts Inc., and the Collegiate Licensing Company, objecting to the use of likeness of former student athletes in archival footage as avatars in video games, in photographs and promotions. So the status was, quote, according to the NCAA, our agreement with EA Sports clearly prohibits the use of names and pictures of current student athletes in their electronic games. We are confident that no such use has occurred, close quote. And that is Bob Williams, NCAA Vice President of Communications. I guess that's his job, is to do what? Damage control. Again, this is the NCAA response, and the first part was the lawsuit status. Now, a really important one here. Former UCLA basketball student athlete Ed O'Bannon files for a similar class action antitrust lawsuit July 21st, 2009. And then the next day, NCAA says, quote, the NCAA categorically denies any infringement on former or current student athlete likeness rights, close quote. Bob Williams, NCAA Vice President of Communications. He is a pretty popular guy back in those days. Well, guess what? We're going to carry on. On January 15, 2010, so we're going to say about 6 months later, U.S. District Court of Northern California Judge Claudia Wilkin grants a motion to consolidate several cases making similar claims against the NCAA, Collegiate Licensing Company, and Electronic Arts, Inc. And the NCAA's response, about 6 months later, says the NCAA, quote, does not attempt to profit from the likeness of Mr. Keller or any other student athlete, nor does it license EA to use those images, close quote. That's Bob Williams, again, NCAA Vice President of Communications. So now we'll go to a month after that action in the U.S. District Court. So that was January 15th. We'll call it 4 weeks later, February 9, 2010. Wilkins denies a motion to dismiss the suits, though she does dismiss other claims regarding rights of publicity and breach of contract. And the NCAA's response on the next day, so it's Feb 9, now it's Feb 10, 2010. Quote, we're pleased that the court recognized defects in some of the claims made by plaintiffs and dismissed those. The court's other ruling at the preliminary stage of the cases do not diminish the NCAA's confidence that we will ultimately prevail on all of the claims, close quote. Eric Christensen, NCAA Director of Public Media Relations. Now, we'll go 1 month down the road, March 10, 2010. O'Bannon and Keller request the suit to be certified as a class action, because all you need are 2 people to make it a class action. You don't need 25. Some people said a long time ago, you need 25 people. No, you don't. All you need is more than 1. Anyway, March 10th, the same day, quote, the NCAA says, quote, the number of plaintiffs does not change the fact that the NCAA does not license student-athlete likeness or prevent former student-athletes from attempting to do so. Likewise, to claim the NCAA profits off student-athletes' likeness is also pure fiction, close quote. That's, again, Eric Christensen, NCAA Director of Communications. However, 1 month later, we'll call it 3 weeks later, quote, the class action lawsuit filed by former UCLA basketball player Ed O'Bannon has prompted rampant misrepresentation of the facts. The NCAA does not license student-athletes their likeness for any commercial purpose and therefore does not generate revenue through this type of activity. The extent of what the NCAA licenses is limited to its own copyright work, such as broadcast and photos and its marks or logos. Student-athlete images may also be shown in connection with NCAA championship promotion. Further, NCAA does not prevent former student-athletes from profiting off their likeness. Former student-athletes can do so and attempt to capitalize on their collegiate experience. NCAA makes no attempt to interfere with former student-athletes when they do so. There are several examples of former student-athletes that signed endorsement deals and began making money off their likeness as soon as they completed their eligibility, and in some cases before they played professionally. Subway restaurants signed Michael Crabtree, for example, before he was even drafted into the NFL. Former Florida quarterback Tim Tebow, who has yet to be drafted, mind you, this is 2010, yet to be drafted, has started making money off his likeness, selling autographs during a public appearance in Jacksonville in March of 2010. Close quote. That was NCAA statement to NBC News of Charlotte. Now, December 17, 2020, U.S. District Court of Northern California Judge Claudia Wilkins denies the NCAA motion to stay the case. All right, so we're going to try to go through these quick. January 26, 2011. Former Cincinnati basketball student-athlete Oscar Robertson, former Connecticut basketball student-athlete Tate George, and former Ohio State football student-athlete Ray Ellis joined the suit. That's right, it's getting bigger. And of course, there was a response, but it's much the same song and dance. Deny, deny, deny. October 6, 2011, former San Francisco basketball student-athlete Bill Russell joins the lawsuit. That's right. And the NCAA's response to that, October 7, 2011, quote, Mr. Russell's complaint mischaracterizes what the NCAA does with photos and video of his championships. Put simply, the association owns and licenses the copyright on those contests. Mr. Russell, like thousands of other student athletes who played the game, can capitalize on his likeness, reputation, athletic and academic success as a student athlete after college. This can be done through blah, 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 whatever. Okay, so let's move on. August 31st, 2012, O'Bannon files a motion to include current student athletes in class. So he's trying to rally the troops. September 25th, 2012, NCAA files a case management statement to provide its perspective on the state of the case in order to prevent unfair and severe prejudice to the NCAA. Ooh, now it's getting a little bit juicy here. Now, we'll go to October 16, 2012. NCAA files a motion to strike down a move to change the nature of the lawsuit by attempting to include current student athletes as part of a class action suit. November 8, 2012. NCAA files a brief in federal court reiterating its position that plaintiffs not be allowed to expand the lawsuit to include current student athletes and live broadcast. I wonder why that is. March 14, 2013, NCAA files brief opposing class certification in the student athlete likeness litigation. May 9, 2013, judge denies plaintiff discovery. May 31, 2013, NCAA files papers in connection with plaintiff request for class certification. June 21, 2013, court requires student athlete representation. Now it's getting crazy in order for plaintiffs to seek class certification. July 10, 2013, NCAA sends a letter to the plaintiff's lawyer about student-athlete lawsuit participation. July 19, same year, NCAA opposes professionalizing college sports. Really? We'll get to that in another show. July 30, 2013, we're almost done, folks. NCAA seeks to respond in likeness case. September 17, 2013, NCAA files motion to dismiss in likeness case. Ding, 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 ding. And what does that mean? That's what it means, folks. October 25th, 2013, court denies the NCAA motion to dismiss. So you see, at that point, the NCAA knew that they were going to lose. And then we go to November 8th, 2013, judge denies plaintiff certification of damages. December 12, 2013, NCAA files motion for summary judgment. That means they want to win without any further consideration given. January 13th, 2014, Supreme Court denies NCAA motion to intervene in First Amendment case. January 13 to 14, NCAA files response. January 13, 14, same day, plaintiff responds to NCAA summary judgment. And then we go to April, just 3 months later, likeness case proceeds to a jury trial. Big trouble. June 9, 14, NCAA reaches settlement in EA video game lawsuit. When you settle, that means now you admit guilt. June 9, 2014 through June 27, 2014, O'Bannon trial in Oakland. June 27, O'Bannon trial concludes. July 8, 2014, NCAA files post-trial brief in O'Bannon case. And then July 10, overview of the case. August 8, 14, Judge Wilkins issues decision on O'Bannon case. August 8, same. NCAA will appeal O'Bannon decision. Therefore, NCAA lost. Clarification of the injunction, August 20, same. And we go all the way up to July 17 of 2015, NCAA seeks a stay in O'Bannon injunction. So essentially, the NCAA lost to O'Bannon, and essentially they lost the argument. This is where we're at today. This is why these kids are getting paid exorbitant amounts of money in today's time, which is complete and utter lunacy, and it marks them as professionals when they're supposed to be amateur athletes, which violates the very rules the NCAA has set forth in the first place. This is the problem. We don't have time to continue, but I'll tell you what, folks, the whole thing is one steaming pile of you-know-what. That's going to do it for the circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal. We'll see you in 23 hours. So long, everyone.
Show me the money! Stop it!
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.